Have you ever noticed how everyone around you is chasing something? A better job, a bigger house, a perfect relationship, a body that looks just right in pictures. And maybe you too are running in that same race, believing that once you get there, once you finally have it, happiness will finally arrive like some long-awaited guest. But here's the secret no one likes to admit. The moment you reach what you thought would make you happy, that happiness slips through your fingers. It doesn't stay. Instead, you start searching again. Another goal, another desire, another mountain to climb. It's almost as if happiness has turned into a finish line that keeps moving further and further away. And maybe, just maybe, you're tired of it. Tired of smiling for the world while feeling empty inside. Tired of chasing something that never seems to land in your hands. So here's the question. What happens when you stop chasing happiness altogether? What if the very act of chasing is the reason you're never able to hold on to it? In this video, we'll explore the psychology and philosophy behind why chasing happiness always leaves us feeling restless, and what changes the moment you stop running after it. Because maybe happiness isn't found in the chase. Maybe it's found in the stillness that follows when you finally stop. Let's be honest. Most of us grew up with a silent instruction playing in the background of our lives. Work hard, achieve more, get better, and then you'll finally be happy. It starts small. As children, we're told, get good grades and you'll feel proud. Then comes college, career, relationships, success, recognition. Every milestone comes with the unspoken promise. Once you reach here, happiness will be waiting. But here's what really happens. You get that thing. And instead of lasting joy, you feel only a short burst of excitement, a temporary high, like drinking a glass of cold water when you're thirsty, refreshing for a moment, but then you're thirsty again. And so begins the cycle. You chase the next thing, thinking maybe that one will finally give you the happiness you've been searching for. A promotion, a bigger house, a more perfect partner, a social media following that makes you feel admired, but none of it sticks. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill, the tendency for humans to quickly return to a baseline of happiness no matter what happens to them. You win the lottery? At first you're thrilled, but a year later studies show your happiness level returns almost exactly to where it was before. And isn't that terrifying? To think you could spend your entire life running, working, sacrificing, only to find that no matter how much you achieve, you'll still be left with the same restless heart. This is why so many people, even after they get what they thought they wanted, still feel unsatisfied. It's the voice that whispers, "Is this it? Is this all?" And deep down, you might already know this truth. You felt it after you finally bought something you dreamed of, only to find yourself bored with it weeks later. You felt it after achieving a goal that took months or even years, yet instead of lasting happiness, you only felt the weight of the next goal pressing on your shoulders. This endless chase isn't just exhausting, it's soul-crushing, because it convinces you that happiness is always just one step ahead of where you are. And that means you're never truly here. Here's the harsh truth. Much of what we call happiness isn't happiness at all. Think about it. How often do we confuse happiness with excitement, or with comfort, or even with distraction? For example, scrolling through social media gives us little bursts of dopamine. That temporary rush feels like happiness, but it's not. It fades the moment we put our phone down, leaving us emptier than before. Or take material success. We tell ourselves, when I buy that car, that house, those clothes, then I'll be happy. And yes, for a while it feels good. But soon enough, the shine wears off, and you're left needing more. It's like trying to quench your thirst with salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Philosophers like Epicurus warned about this thousands of years ago. He said that most of what we call desires are not natural or necessary. They're illusions planted in our minds by culture, by society, by comparison. The endless chase after them will never bring peace. And modern psychology agrees. Studies show that once your basic needs are met, food, shelter, safety, having more doesn't significantly increase your long-term happiness. Yet we keep running after more as if it's the only path to peace. But here's the real trap. Chasing happiness through these illusions doesn't just fail to make us happy. It actually makes us more anxious, more restless and more empty inside. Because when happiness is always tied to someday when I achieve this, someday when I buy that, someday when I become who I imagine myself to be, then today is never enough. And so you live your life always waiting for tomorrow. But here's the secret nobody tells you. The more you chase happiness outside yourself, the further away it runs. The more you make happiness into a goal, the less likely you are to experience it in this moment. And that's why the chase feels endless. Because you're running after something that was never meant to be chased in the first place. So what happens when you stop? When you stop running, stop chasing, stop telling yourself that happiness is just around the next corner. At first, it feels uncomfortable, almost scary, because for so long, your identity has been built on the chase. You've defined yourself by your goals, your struggles, your hunger to get somewhere better. And suddenly, without that chase, you're left face to face with something most people avoid their whole lives: the present moment. Silence, stillness, yourself. And that's when you realize something profound. Happiness doesn't come from the finish line. It comes from noticing the ground beneath your feet while you're running. It's been here in the now the whole time. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're sitting with a friend, sharing a cup of tea, laughing about something simple. In that moment, you're not chasing anything. You're not comparing, not striving, not proving yourself. And yet, isn't that feeling, that warmth, that contentment, exactly what you've been chasing? It wasn't in the someday. It was in the ordinary now. The same thing happens when you're walking outside and suddenly notice the colors of the sunset, or when you're playing with a child and their laughter fills the room, or even when you're alone reading a book and you feel strangely at peace. These are the moments when happiness slips quietly into your life, not because you chased it, but because you paused long enough to notice it was already there. This is why spiritual traditions, from Buddhism to Sufism, teach the same lesson. Stop searching outwardly for happiness, because happiness isn't something you get, it's something you allow. But here's the twist. When you stop chasing happiness, you don't suddenly become lazy, unmotivated, or careless, as some people fear. In fact, you often become more alive, more creative, more present, because your actions are no longer fueled by desperation. They're fueled by joy, by meaning, by love. Think about it. When you're not obsessed with achieving something to feel happy, you can finally enjoy the process itself. You paint because you love painting, not because you need applause. You work because it fulfills you, not because you're desperate for status. You connect with people because you care, not because you need validation. And this shift changes everything. Life stops feeling like a race you're constantly losing. It starts to feel like a dance, a rhythm you can move with instead of fight against. And here's the most surprising part. When you stop chasing happiness, happiness often comes to you on its own. Quietly, naturally, like a bird landing on your shoulder when you finally sit still. So if happiness isn't something to be chased, then what is it? Maybe happiness isn't a constant state of joy or excitement, as we've been taught to believe. Maybe it's something softer, something quieter. Maybe happiness is not about always feeling good, but about feeling alive. Think about it. The happiest people you know aren't the ones who never struggle. They aren't the ones with perfect lives. They're the ones who can find beauty even in small things, who can sit with sadness and still feel connected to life, who don't run away from pain, but also don't cling to it. Happiness, then, isn't about eliminating negative emotions. It's about embracing the full spectrum of life without constantly wishing it was different. Philosopher Alan Watts once said, "Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone." And isn't that what we do with happiness? We keep stirring it, chasing it, complicating it, when in truth, if we simply let life be, clarity comes on its own. Let me ask you, how much of your unhappiness is really about what's happening now, and how much is about your constant desire for something else? Think of the stress you feel when scrolling online, comparing your life to others, or the pressure to achieve more just to keep up. That pressure doesn't come from the present moment. It comes from the belief that this moment isn't enough. But what if it is enough? What if happiness is less about adding things to your life and more about subtracting question mark, subtracting comparison, subtracting pressure, subtracting the constant demand to always be more than who you already are. Happiness then becomes not a chase, but a choice to pause, a choice to notice, a choice to allow life to be what it is instead of what you wish it was. Now, this doesn't mean you stop having goals or dreams. It doesn't mean you sit and do nothing. But the difference is, you're no longer making happiness the reward at the end of the road. You bring happiness into the road itself. You don't write to be famous. You write because the act of writing fills your soul. You don't love to be loved back. You love because love is what you are. You don't live for the future. You live because right now is the only place life actually exists. And when you begin to live like this, something magical happens. You stop fearing the future. You stop regretting the past. And you finally arrive in the only place happiness has ever been, here, now. So here's the truth. All your life you've been told that happiness is something you earn, something you unlock, something that waits for you after the promotion, after the perfect relationship, after the house, after the dream comes true. But what if, just what if, happiness was never hiding in the future question mark? What if it was quietly waiting for you, here, in the silence you've been too busy to notice? When you stop chasing happiness, you begin to see life differently. The things you used to overlook suddenly feel precious. A quiet morning, a deep breath, a kind word, the sound of rain. And slowly, you realize something powerful. Happiness isn't a prize you win. It's the space you create. It's the peace in knowing that you don't have to be more to be worthy. It's the freedom in realizing you don't have to run anymore. It's the acceptance that life, even in its imperfections, is still enough. But here's the paradox. When you stop making happiness the end goal, you actually get closer to it. Why? Because you're no longer clinging, no longer desperate, no longer trapped in the belief that you're incomplete. Instead, you start to live, truly live. You smile because you feel it, not because you need to show it. You work because it fulfills you, not because you're trying to prove something. You love because love itself is joy, not because you're bargaining for happiness in return. And this is the deepest shift. You begin to see that happiness was never outside of you. It was always within you, waiting for you to stop running long enough to hear it whisper. So let me ask you this. What if you didn't have to keep running? What if today, right now, you simply paused, closed your eyes, took a breath, and allowed yourself to believe, Dasa, that you already have enough? Because maybe, just maybe, the happiness you've been chasing all these years isn't something to find. It's something to feel, and it's already here.